Omega-3 fatty acids are the nutritional equivalent of peacekeepers, quietly defusing inflammation, smoothing out cardiac rhythms, and supporting the kind of metabolic diplomacy that keeps the body from spiraling into chronic disease. But when it comes to translating these benefits into actual reductions in all-cause mortality, the key isn't just taking omega-3s, it's taking enough. And that enough is often more than the sprinkle of flaxseed on your morning yogurt or the lone fish oil capsule that's been living in your supplement drawer since 2020. The real stars of the omega-3 show are EPA, eicosapentaenoic acid, and DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, long-chain fatty acids primarily found in fatty fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel, or in marine algae, for those who prefer their omegas without fins. These compounds don't just float passively in your bloodstream. They actively embed themselves into cell membranes, altering the structure and function of tissues from the heart and brain to the skin and immune system. Once integrated, they shift the body's inflammatory profile away from pro-inflammatory cytokines and toward a more regulated, anti-inflammatory state. This is not passive nutrition, it's molecular reprogramming. When it comes to cardiovascular health, the effects are striking. EPA and DHA help lower triglycerides, stabilize atherosclerotic plaques, reduce blood pressure, improve endothelial function, and, crucially, prevent arrhythmias, those electrical hiccups that can trigger sudden cardiac death. In fact, the strongest and most consistent data linking omega-3 intake to reductions in all-cause mortality stem from its ability to reduce sudden cardiac death, the kind that comes without warning and often leaves no second chance. Studies have found that people with higher blood levels of omega-3s, particularly EPA, have significantly lower risk of fatal arrhythmias and cardiovascular events, even if they don't have classic heart disease. But here's the nuance. Dose really matters. Many observational studies suggest that you need a minimum intake of 1,000 milligrams per day of combined EPA and DHA to significantly influence mortality risk. That's not a trace amount. It's the equivalent of eating a full serving of fatty fish 2 to 3 times per week, or taking a dedicated omega-3 supplement that clearly spells out EPA and DHA content, not just 1,000 milligrams of fish oil, which is often misleading. And when it comes to therapeutic interventions, like secondary prevention after a heart attack or management of high triglycerides, higher doses in the range of 2,000 to 4,000 milligrams per day have shown even stronger effects. The REDUCE-IT trial, for example, used a purified form of EPA, icosapent ethyl, at a dose of 4,000 milligrams per day and saw a dramatic reduction in major cardiovascular events, including a 20% reduction in cardiovascular mortality. That's not just clinically meaningful, it's life-extending. And while REDUCE-IT studied a very specific population, high-risk individuals already on statins, it hammered home the point that omega-3s aren't just a casual dietary add-on. They can act as targeted cardiovascular therapy when dosed appropriately. Let's not forget the anti-inflammatory side of the story. Chronic low-grade inflammation is the biochemical background noise of aging and disease. From atherosclerosis and metabolic syndrome to autoimmune conditions and neurodegeneration, inflammation fans the flames. Omega-3s help quiet that noise by displacing arachidonic acid in cell membranes and leading to the production of specialized pro-resolving mediators, SPMs, like resolvins and protectins. These compounds don't just reduce inflammation, they help resolve it, guiding the immune system back to baseline after a threat has passed. That's a sophisticated trick that most anti-inflammatory drugs can't pull off. And yet, the average Western diet falls woefully short. Most people get far more omega-6 fatty acids from processed oils than omega-3s, tilting the inflammatory scale in the wrong direction. The optimal omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is probably somewhere between 2 to 1 and 4 to 1. The modern average? Try 15:1 or worse. This imbalance fuels systemic inflammation and may partly explain the persistently high rates of cardiovascular disease, even in populations with access to healthcare, statins, and leafy greens. Plant-based omega-3s like ALA, alpha-linolenic acid from flax, chia, and walnuts offer some benefit, but conversion to EPA and DHA is inefficient, usually under 10% in humans. That's why direct sources of EPA and DHA, either from oily fish or marine algae, are preferred when the goal is systemic inflammation control and cardiovascular protection. Of course, as with any supplement, quality and context matter. Look for third-party tested products to ensure purity, especially free of mercury and heavy metals. And consider pairing omega-3 intake with meals containing fat to enhance absorption. If you're already on anticoagulants or have bleeding disorders, always consult your doctor before diving into high-dose fish oil territory. Ultimately, omega-3s don't work overnight, and they don't function like magic bullets. But over time, especially when taken consistently and at effective doses, they seem to shift the trajectory of aging away from chronic inflammation and sudden cardiovascular failure and toward resilience, adaptability, and longer health span. So yes, dose matters, but so does consistency. Whether it's salmon on your plate, algae oil in your smoothie, or a couple capsules with your lunch, consider omega-3s as an essential part of the long game in living not just longer, but better.